thank you for all of you joining us today. It's the Diwali festival week, and we are coming together to observe a very important part of Diwali, which is actually the remembrance of the beautiful pastime of Yashoda Mata and Lord Krishna in the form of Damodara. 15 days before Diwali and 15 days after Diwali, this festival becomes very important for all the devotees around the world, especially if you are in Vrindavan. Mataji, I think you will have to off the bhajan now, so that we can just concentrate on the kirtan. So I'm going to request everyone, we start with a few minutes of kirtan, and I would request everyone to please chant. You all have heard of the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So my request is, when I start chanting, you hear. That's the process. You hear first. And once you have heard it, then when I stop chanting, you have to actually chant. And I would request everyone to chant wholeheartedly. There is no loss in chanting Krishna's names. And I see a few youngsters here, and I think, you probably have louder voices than your parents. Use it well now, and use it to chant Krishna's names. So let's do that. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna ki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody should try. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hare. I can't hear many of you. Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Bol. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Jai Vrindavan Bhumi Dham ki. Sweta Mataji, later traditionally what happens is, by the end of the Leela, we tend to sing Damodara Ashtakam. Have you shared it with your guests? Because what would be good is if you have a WhatsApp group or you have friends, you can always get it on PDF on your phone and you can just send it to everyone. Because otherwise what will happen is when we want to sing, everyone will not know what it is. It may be tricky. So I'm just giving you advance notice so that you have a little bit of time to do that if you can. We will be actually speaking about the beautiful glory and pastime of Lord Krishna. And many of you would have heard this pastime because this pastime comes in Bhagavatam and it is a pastime that speaks so much about the greatness of Krishna. One very important thing we should remember is that all these beautiful pastimes of the Lord, they are not on the material plane. Please always remember that. On the material plane, whatever that we speak about, the nature of that which is material is that it is temporary. So whatever that you touch, which is material or matter, the quality of that is that it will eventually deteriorate. And eventually either it leaves you or you leave it. Have you noticed that in your life? Everything that you come across never stays with you perpetually. If it did, then factually speaking, it is not material. Frankly speaking, if you use that same logic, then you will realize that your own sharir, your own body, is also not permanent. If it is permanent, then you would live forever. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. That depends on who is living forever. But generally speaking, I have not heard of anyone who's going to live forever. We all know that, like everything else in this world, we have an expiry date. The only difference is, unlike goods that you see in the supermarket, where it's very clear when the expiry date is, you and I are never clear about our expiry date, right? Very few of us are given that opportunity to know our expiry date, which means then logically that if you don't know when your date of expiry is going to be, all the more reason to have a sense of urgency to understand the value of your human life. Imagine we are living year after year. And the most wonderful thing Mahabharata tells us, in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira Maharaj is asked this question, what is the most wonderful thing in the world? And he replies very beautifully, the most wonderful thing in the world is that every day someone is dying. But those who live seriously think that they will live forever. That is the most wonderful thing about life. Every year at some point we will attend somebody's funeral and we will see someone has left the world. And when we go, either it is a loved one or someone who is very dear to us, we will feel a state of sorrow and separation from them. But the whole point of someone leaving that is equally important to us is for us to remember that our time is also coming. Sometimes we have a subconscious attitude that if we hear that someone has passed, we feel bad, we feel sorrow, we feel pain of separation, but it never occurs to us that maybe our turn could be coming around the corner, because you and I don't know the expiry date. We don't know that. And that is why Shastras tell us this body must be valuable. It is valuable not for material acquisitions, because life after life you have acquired many things. But every time you were born, or every time these children were born, they did not come with a package deal from the past life. If you had your MBAs and your whatever other degrees from your past life, when you were born into this world, the degrees didn't come with you, right? You just came, and you didn't come with any clothes either. You came with nothing. And therefore, Shastras tell us at the end of life also, none of your degrees and your investments and everything else will ever matter. Because the only thing that will matter at the point of death is your consciousness of who you are and who you are in relation to Krishna. That is the verdict of the Shastras. And therefore Shastras tell us, Savai pumsam paro dharmo, yathor bhakti radok saje, ahai tuki aprati hata, yayatma suprasidati. Suprasidati means to be very satisfied. Yayatma means our atmas. If we really want to experience satisfaction in our life now, we must understand that our constitutional position is actually to render devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. When we actually perform bhakti to Krishna, then our satisfaction remains with us. Otherwise, the satisfaction that you get from anything in this world is temporary. It is temporary. It will be there for a while, but once it leaves, it will take your satisfaction with it also, and you will feel a sense of vacuum. And that is what happens to us in relationships. That's what happens to us when near and dear leave us. And sometimes that's what happens to us when things that we acquire also leave us. And that is a fact of life. So that's why these pastimes of Krishna are not on the material plane. And therefore listening to them is very, very purifying for the heart. Otherwise, we are so steeped in the mode of ignorance that we think every day very important concept that we should have before we start remembering the pastime of Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Sir, you mind asking some questions?
I would prefer to finish the discussion and then take questions, because in case I need to answer it, it may take a bit of time. Is that okay? Hmm? Good. So now let us go into the pastime of Krishna, which is very important. In Bhagavatam, it is stated that this pastime happens on the day of Diwali. On the day of Diwali, Mother Yashoda wakes up in the morning. She dresses herself up very nicely. And she comes out and she realizes that all her maidservants are performing many duties in the house. She also realizes that Krishna, who is very young at that time, is asleep. And therefore, she is taking advantage of the fact that he's not awake. Krishna, by then, has the reputation in Vrindavan of being a butter thief. And he would steal butter not only from his house. Stealing from your house is one thing. Stealing from somebody's house is another thing altogether. And that was Krishna's business. He was stealing always butter. And no matter how much Yashoda Mata made butter in her own house, Krishna still took pleasure stealing from other person's houses. Now, the reason why Krishna stole from the other devotees' houses is not because he was a thief at heart, but because all these devotees, they also wanted an opportunity to serve Krishna. And so whenever they realized that they had some food for Krishna, their prayer would be, Krishna, I would like you to take that food. But because Krishna was always in the home of Mother Yashoda, he also fulfilled the desire of all these other gopis by himself going to their houses and taking food and stealing butter. And so the residents of Vrindavan never felt angry with Krishna, but actually they felt so much of love for Krishna. So Mother Yashoda woke up in the morning and she started churning butter for Krishna, because she felt that if she made butter for him on that day of Diwali, then he will be peaceful and he will be satisfied. So as she was churning butter, even though butter churning is considered to be an extraneous and laborious activity, and it takes a lot of effort, Mother Yashoda, even though she was perspiring, she was endeavoring, but she was very peaceful, because even amidst her activity, her consciousness was on Krishna. This is very important for us actually. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is very nicely stated, Yoga Yukto Vishuddharma. It means a devotee always engages himself in the service of the Lord. The word yoga means to unite. It means to connect. And therefore, when we are linked or connected to Krishna, we are connected to him on the platform of service. Therefore, when you perform service and you understand the temporary nature of the world, and you value what you have in the world, and you use it for Krishna, then it becomes very peaceful. And this is the experience of many devotees in the world. Devotees don't have to reject what is given to them, but how we use that which is given to us is very important. Now, Prabhu and Mataji have a house, and on a Sunday evening, they could have decided to use it in whichever way they wanted. But they've used it in the service of Krishna. They've taken time and trouble to set up so much beautiful altar with ghee lamps and everything. They took the trouble to call all of you. This trouble is no trouble for them, because in their hearts, because they are devotees, they see it as service. So when one performs what appears to be a material activity on the service platform for the satisfaction of Krishna, then what looks material can be spiritualized. This is very important. That's why the practicality of living in this material world is that we use our energy and faculties, and whatever that we perform, we offer it as a service to Krishna. So if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a student, your duty is to be the best student you should be, because you offer the results of your activities to Krishna. So Mother Yashoda churned butter, and she wanted to offer that butter to Krishna. So there was no what we call karma bandhanaha. Otherwise, the law of karma in this world is so powerful that for every material action you have, there will always be a material reaction. But when a devotee performs something for the pleasure of the Lord, then it doesn't come under the jurisdiction of karma. It comes under the jurisdiction of sukriti. Sukriti means pious spiritual activities, and therefore no karma. And Mother Yashoda's activity appeared mundane to an outsider, but actually it was very spiritual. And therefore when she churned the butter, she was remembering the pastimes of Krishna. She was singing the pastimes of Krishna also. It is in our tradition actually for our forefathers that long before the TVs and the social medias came out, in the evenings after they had finished all their duties, they would gather together and they would sit down and they would speak about Krishna. In Bhagavatam and in some shlokas, this point is stated. Grahe grahe gopavadhu kadambe sarve militva samavapya yogam punyani namani patanti nityam govinda damo dharmadaveti. So this shloka tells us that in the evenings after the residents of Vrindavan finished all their duties, they would come together, they would gather. There was a social gathering. But at the center of the social gathering was Krishna. See, today we have a social gathering. It could be a party, but it's a spiritual party because we have Krishna in the center and the atmosphere completely changes, right? There is nothing material here. Even though everything is material by matter, but it is transformed because of what we're hearing. So they would come together and they would speak about Krishna. and so would Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda was remembering Krishna and churning butter when Krishna woke up in the next room and he came out. And he came to his mother and indicated to her that he wanted milk because he was hungry. So Mother Yashoda picked him up, stopped the churning, and she put him on the lap. And she gave him milk. And that was the satisfaction and that was the perfection of her existence, to be able to serve Krishna. Krishna is so kind that it isn't very important to him how great or powerful your service is. What is more important to Krishna is how much heart you put into that service. You can offer in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that you can offer him a leaf, a flower, a fruit, even water. But if you offer it with devotion, that is what Krishna wants. You may have something very powerful materially, but if it is offered in a mood of challenging Krishna, if it is offered in the mood without faith, then it doesn't stand the test of devotion. So this is a very important thing, which means anyone can perform bhakti. There is no need for any material qualification to come to Krishna. All that is needed is a sincere heart. Mother Yashoda did not have degrees. She was a simple housewife, but her whole and soul was Krishna. And that is bhakti. So Mother Yashoda fed Krishna. But when Krishna sees a devotee is very serious in Krishna consciousness, Krishna sometimes tests a devotee. And so Krishna put Mother Yashoda in a very awkward situation. Because as she was feeding him and she hasn't finished feeding him, she remembered that she had put milk on the stove in the kitchen for Krishna. And the milk was threatening to boil over. Now, Krishna hadn't fully fed, which means when a child is not fully fed and you put the child down, children tend to be grumpy or grouchy, and they're not very happy. We have a saying, a hungry child is an angry child, isn't it? It happens. They become very grouchy. But she thought, I have to save the milk, because the milk is actually meant for Krishna. So what she decided was, let me put Krishna down for a while, let me jump into the kitchen, get the milk and come back. When she came back, to her horror, she realized that Krishna was not there. But she saw that Krishna had broken the pot that she was churning and all the butter had come out. The truth is, when Mother Yashoda put Krishna down, he became transcendently upset. And he thought, let me teach my mother a lesson for putting me down. And so he took a stone and he broke the pot. And of course, butter was always something he liked. So when the butter began flowing, Krishna began eating. But then he realized he shouldn't stay too long. And then he realized, better I leave now before Mother comes out. We've all done this, isn't it, at some point? Did something not correct and made sure we ran away before the things escalated. And that's what Krishna did. Mother Yashoda comes out and she sees, oh, Krishna is very intelligent. He's not sitting there because he knows I'll get very upset. So I need to find him. And today, Diwali day, I need to discipline him. If Krishna continues this way, he'll become the greatest thief in Vrindavan. He will break people's pots and he will steal butter. And that's not very good. So Mother Yashoda decided, I need to at least discipline him. So she said, let me pick up a stick and I'll take the stick with me. I won't beat him, but a stick tends to be a deterrent, isn't it? When you see a stick or you see a mother with the stick, I think when you see the mother without the stick, it's one thing. Mother with the stick is another thing. So Mother Yashoda proceeded to follow Krishna's footprints right inside the hall in a storage place where all the butter pots were kept high up, specifically so that Krishna would not touch them. But Krishna is very smart. You see the murtis of Krishna here? You can see the mortar behind him. That mortar is used to grind spices. The mortar was actually in the room. And Mother Yashoda saw, as she stood in the corner, just at the entrance, she saw something very interesting. She saw actually Krishna standing on the mortar. He had a stick with him and he was breaking all the pots of butter. And all the butter were flowing. And as butter was flowing, he was taking the butter and eating. But more importantly, he was feeding the butter to all his friends. And Krishna's best friends in Vrindavan are the monkeys. The monkeys. The monkeys and Krishna got along very well. For obvious reasons, they were very mischievous. And the monkeys were always serving Krishna. Krishna was always serving the monkeys. So Mother Yashoda saw a wonderful sight. Krishna was freely giving all the food and the butter to the monkeys. It's a very interesting sight, Bhagavatam says, because generally when thieves steal something or they take something that doesn't belong to them, they tend to hold it. But sometimes when you get a gang of thieves, you have this saying, there's no honor among thieves. because they will say, let us honestly divide stolen property. That's what was happening there. The property was not for theirs to give, but he gave it anyway. But then there's a very deep meaning to this, Shastra say. Because frankly speaking, Krishna can never be a thief, because everything belongs to Krishna. It is so nicely stated in Bhagavatam, no, in Brahma Samhita, Ishwaraha Parama Krishnaha Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. The Shastras tell us that Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the primeval start of this creation, and he is the original supreme person. Therefore, everything that has come into this world is coming from Krishna. Therefore, there's nothing for Krishna to steal. And yet, Krishna played the part of a boy because he was reciprocating the love of his dear devotee. This is the greatness of Krishna. Sometimes we think that God is impersonal and he's very far away. But all our Shastras emphatically state that God is very personal. All we need to do is establish a relationship, a rasa. It could be the rasa of Yashoda Mata as a parent. It could be the rasa of Arjuna as a friend. It could be the rasa of the Gopas, who were friends also. It could even be the rasa of the Gopis, who were lovers. It could be the rasa of the Shantaras, or the servants, Sakyaras. There are so many ways to relate to Krishna. So Mother Yashoda saw the beautiful side, but she could not understand what was really happening. Why? Because actually, Krishna was feeding the monkeys not arbitrarily. It wasn't a random thing. These monkeys in Vrindavan were actually the same monkeys who served Krishna as Vanaras when Krishna was in the form of Lord Ram in Ram Leela. And when Ram Leela ended, Lord Ram asked all the Vanaras, you have served me so well. Ask to this world again and descend into the world again, then let us come back again with you so that we have the opportunity to be able to serve you again. So you will realize that when we talk about devotional service, bhakti, the denominator of bhakti is always on the platform of sevanam. Sevanam means to serve. It is the service mood of a devotee that attracts Krishna. And if you look around you materially in this material world, you realize that a lot of our loving relationships are based on the basis of service. Mothers serve children, children serve mothers, fathers serve wives, husbands serve wives, wives serve husbands, fathers serve mothers, mothers serve fathers. We all serve each other. But how we serve it is the difference. In bhakti, we serve it without a material motivation. And that becomes very pure. So Mother Yashoda had nothing in her heart and the monkeys had nothing in their heart. And so the same monkeys who served the Lord as Lord Ram came back to Vrindavan when he came as Krishna. And he fulfilled their promise because they served him and he also had the opportunity to serve them. And so now when they saw Mother Yashoda, they decided they had to leave because it was not a good time to stay. Mother Yashoda had a stick and so they left. Only Krishna was remaining. Krishna was seated on the mota. His back was to the door. But when he saw everybody scrambling, he knew that who was behind him was definitely his mother. He turned to see Mother Yashoda. He was very happy to see his mother. But when he saw the stick with his mother, he was not very happy. He got off the mota and he started running from his mother because he knew he would be punished. And can you see that beautiful picture that Prabhu and Mataji have? It's a beautiful picture of Krishna running. And you can see Krishna is not a very big boy. So Mother Yashoda saw Krishna running and she thought, it'll be very easy to catch him. You know, when your children run, especially when they're young, it's not difficult to catch them. Maybe a few minutes, but eventually you will catch them. Mother Yashoda thought the same thing. She thought, Krishna is a small child. He can run, but I'll catch him. But every time she came close enough to catch Krishna, Krishna was a meter ahead. Every time she thought she caught the dhoti of Krishna, Krishna was just 2 meters ahead. Every time she thought she could catch the curly hair of Krishna, Krishna was just half a meter away. And Mother Yashoda began to perspire. She began to get tired, right? She was not a marathon runner exactly, but she was getting very tired. And she thought on her own, on my own volition, on my own strength, on my own endeavor, I can catch Krishna. But what she didn't realize is that all the yogis for thousands of years are trying to meditate on Krishna, but they cannot catch Krishna. All the munis and the rishis are trying to catch Krishna through meditation, through whatever means possible, through yoga, but they cannot catch Krishna. The truth is, one may have so much endeavor, but until there is mercy of the Lord, that endeavor is always incomplete. These two components are necessary to complete the cycle of devotional service. The endeavor is from outside, and the reciprocatory mercy is coming from the Lord. So Mother Yashoda then said to Krishna, Krishna, I've tried very hard. Now kindly help me and stop running so I can catch you. The moment Mother Yashoda surrendered to Krishna, Krishna felt, now it is time for me to be caught by my mother. And this Supreme Personality of Godhead, who cannot be caught by anyone in a random fashion, was caught by his mother on the basis of love, on the basis of love. And so Mother Yashoda caught him, and now she brought him to the mota. You can see the mota here, right? The deities are there. And she put him there. But she realized that Krishna was looking very, very terrified. You see his hands? His hands are like that. He had begun to cry. Tears were coming down in such a way that the kajal and the ointment that Mother Yashoda had put on his eyes, they were all flowing. They were all flowing. And he was shaking with fear because he thought he was going to be beaten. And the jewels on him, the earrings on him were all shaking with him also. And when Mother Yashoda saw that, her heart melted because she thought, my dear child, I wanted to discipline him, but I did not want him to be so afraid. Now, Shastras and Acharyas tell us that this is a very glorious scene because this scene is bewildering to many people. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether in the Bible, whether in the Quran or any of the scriptures. You will always read that because God is so supreme, everything is subordinate to God. And therefore, the wind blows out of fear. The 5 elements of nature move out of fear. It is stated even Yamaraj, who is the superintendent of death, is fearful of Krishna. And it is stated fear personified is fearful of Krishna. And yet here, Krishna played the part of a perfect child, that he became fearful of his mother. So when Acharyas hear this, they think how glorious and how simple is the relationship between us and God. Unfortunately, sometimes, because we don't understand this simplicity, we complicate matters. And that is why sometimes it appears that Krishna is elusive to us. But he's not. And that is why it's so important to hear Shastras. Shastras show us through very simple stories of Krishna so much of practical value about how to increase our bhakti. So Mother Yashoda caught Krishna. And now she said, Krishna, stand still. Don't move. Now I know you're very restless. So I'm going to tie you to the mota. And you stand there for a while. So Mother Yashoda got ropes. Very little ropes because Krishna was not very big. And she brought the ropes around his navel, but she couldn't tie the rope. Surprisingly, the rope turned out to be 2 fingers short. She asked for more rope. And she gets more rope. She puts it around Krishna's belly. And again, it is 2 fingers short. She thought this is not possible. So she asked for all her neighbors to give her the ropes. And by now her neighbors have come inside because they're all watching this and they're wondering what's happening with Krishna. Whenever something happens with Krishna, they are very, very joyous to see. And so they all came. Mother Yashoda for the 3rd time in the day was endeavoring. Why 3rd time? The first time she endeavored by churning butter for him. The second time she endeavored by running after him. And now the 3rd time she endeavored by just trying to tie the rope around him. And she couldn't. And then finally she said the same thing she said just a while ago. She said, Krishna, I need you to be bound. I surrender to you. Please allow me to bind you. Krishna, when he heard the love and devotion of his mother, he then accepted and decided and allowed himself to be bound. Now the Acharyas tell us, and the scriptures tell us, that there is significance to why the rope was always 2 inches short. Because they represent 2 very important things. The first is our endeavor. In Bhagavatam, that is known as Granatascha Swa Chestitam. Swa means your personal, Chestitam means endeavor. When you take up devotional service, a very important element of your progress is when you make endeavor. To the extent that you endeavor towards Krishna, to that extent Krishna will reciprocate with you. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, it is stated as Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. To the extent that you surrender to Krishna, to that extent Krishna will reciprocate with you. And this is the basis of all relationships, even in the material world. All successful relationships are always reciprocal in nature. I take 2 steps towards you, you take 2 steps towards me, and that's how we work. That is the perfection of the spiritual relationship with Krishna. The second finger is his mercy. You may have rain falling over 2 parcels of land. One land is barren and the other land is fertile. No matter how much land falls on barren, how much water or rain falls on barren land, if the land is not ready to absorb the rain, it remains barren. But if little bit of rain falls on fertile land, which is ready to absorb, then that land becomes fertile and it is green. So Krishna's mercy is available to everyone. Everyone. Even the so-called asuras, who are always inimical of Krishna, Krishna is still merciful to them. Putana came to kill Krishna. You all remember Putana? The nurse, isn't it? She smeared poison on her breast, but she disguised herself as a beautiful gopi. She tried to look very devotional. She pretended to be a devotee. But even in pretending to be a devotee, Krishna took her life out of her. But he also took out all the contamination of envy that she had in her heart. And he gave her the position of Dhatri in Vrindavan, the nurse. Why? Because she came and pretended to be a devotee. Even if you pretend to be a sadhu or a devotee, Krishna is still merciful to you. Imagine how much more merciful he will be if you really make a sincere endeavor. Remember, Krishna is not looking for perfection of what you do. He is actually looking at the purity of your intention. There's a difference in spiritual life between purity and perfection. In material world, perfection is very important. But in the spiritual world, Krishna looks at the purity of your intention. That becomes the driving point. So the 2 inches are very important. And when Mother Yashoda surrendered with her endeavor, Krishna reciprocated with her mercy. And therefore the rope came together. And Krishna became bound. And therefore, once Krishna became bound, Mother Yashoda became very happy. Why? She can finally do something for Diwali. Because Krishna was bound. Now there's just a little bit more to this pastime. Because even though Krishna is bound, Krishna is always independent. And so after Mother Yashoda went inside the kitchen, Krishna started crawling. And the mortar, which was vertical, turned horizontal and rolled with him. And he crawled to the end of the garden where there were 2 very big trees that had stood there for years and years. They were the Yamal Arjuna trees. Krishna went in between them because he was very tiny. But the mortar was big and he got stuck between the foot of the trees. But Krishna is Krishna. He pushed just a little bit and the 2 trees crashed. And in place of the trees were very beautiful devatas. They were effulgent and they bowed before Krishna. So Krishna innocently asked them, who are you? And why have you been trees in my courtyard? And they told Krishna that we too are the sons of Kuber. You all know Kuber, right? He's the superintendent of wealth. And because our father was so rich, we became intoxicated with pride. And not only were we intoxicated with pride, we were often also intoxicated. And we forgot Krishna. And so one day we were in the lake of the Mandakini river. And we were bathing and sporting and drunk. And suddenly a great devotee of the Lord, Narada, he passed by. So everybody else was bathing, they put on clothes, they came out and bowed before Narada. These 2 boys, so intoxicated with pride and intoxicated, came out in a drunken stupor and stood before Naradaji with no clothes on. When Narada looked at them, he felt compassion. He thought, here are 2 sons of a devata who are actually devotional in nature. But because of attachment to material nature and forgetfulness of their real value of life, they have forgotten what is the purpose of life. And therefore, Narada said, I'm going to curse both of you. I will curse both of you to become trees because you don't like to put on clothes anyway. Trees don't need to put on clothes. Trees' consciousness are very low. Become trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. But I pray that at some point of time, Krishna will deliver you and you will take darshan of Krishna. And by his mercy, you will be delivered of this ignorance. When a sadhu appears to curse someone, it is not a curse. It appears to be a curse, but it is a blessing. Generally, when sadhus give us blessing, they will sometimes will tell us, I pray that everything material will leave you. And we panic because we think we're going to be on the road and we're going to be bankrupt. But when the sadhu prays that way, it is not that everything will leave us. It is just that our attachment to it should leave us. It is all right to keep everything with us. Mataji's got a great house. But the question is, are we attached to it or are we using it for Krishna? That's all. So when sadhus say that, it is actually meant to cleanse our heart. So the two boys became trees. But Narada's prayer would never go in vain. And Krishna remembered thousands of years ago the prayer of Narada. And on the day of Diwali, he fulfilled the prayer of Narada by delivering the two boys. So you see, in our culture, we have this idea in bhakti, bhaktaye bhakta jana priyaha. Krishna says, not only is the devotee dear to me, but a devotee of a devotee is equally as dear to me. You all remember in Ram Leela, there was Vibhishana, the son of, the brother of Ravana, you remember? He was always telling Ravana to be nice, not to keep Sita. He was the good guy. And one day when he was advising him that way, Ravana became so harsh with him, he literally threw him out of court. And Vibhishana left. But before he left, he asked the asuras there, is there anyone here who wants to follow me? Nobody dared to except four. Only four demons, right, who were with Ravana, decided to come with Vibhishana. So he came to the edge of Lanka and he crossed over to the mainland of India. And there Lord Ram's army was camped. And there was heavy security in the night. Angada, Sugriva, Hanuman, they were all like on security because they were on high alert. War was imminent. And suddenly they saw Vibhishana coming with four asuras. So they thought this must be the enemy, because they recognized Vibhishana as the brother of Ravana. So Angada went up and Sugriva went up and told Vibhishana, who are you and why are you here? And he said, I'm Vibhishana. I want to surrender to Lord Ram. And Angada said, I think I am suspicious of your intentions. You could be a spy. You could come here and say, oh, Lord Ram, I love you very much. And then you spy and go back. So for 4 or 5 hours, they literally interrogated Vibhishana. The four asuras were seated very carefully and quietly and waiting. Towards the end of the morning, towards the end of the night, Lord Ram heard the commotion. And he came out. And he asked, what is all this commotion about? And Sugriva and Angada, they explained that we don't trust Vibhishana. Lord Ram went up to Vibhishana and he embraced him. And suddenly everybody's suspicions just went. Because Lord Ram had accepted him as a devotee. And they had faith in Lord Ram. Now the moment Lord Ram accepted him, Vibhishana could finally get through the security. As he was walking, what about the four asuras? They were there. Now as they were walking in, Angada stopped them and said, wait a minute, Vibhishana we trust, what about four of you? And one of them said, oh, we are with him. And when Angada heard that, he said, oh, okay, fine, if you're with him, you can get through. This is bhaktaye bhakta jana priyaha. I have a common example I give to everyone. We have a beautiful temple in Rajkot, Gujarat, where we built it. And before that, we had issues with the land. And we wanted to see the collector of Rajkot. Very difficult to see him. We would line up on Mondays and wait, but we couldn't see him because we had no contact. One day, we finished a nice temple program, and one gentleman came up to say, we enjoyed your program. Oh, by the way, I am the PA to the collector. And we thought, hey, this is very nice. And I told him that I've been trying to meet your boss for so long about the land. He said, why didn't you say so? Monday, come and see me at 10:30 in the morning. And so we went to see him at 10:30. The moment he saw us, he took us through the back door. Because there's always a back door, isn't it? And he took us through the back door and we saw all the lines of people waiting the way we waited for 3 weeks. And we got in and he closed the door, and within 5 minutes we were seated before the collector. Collector looked at our file and said, fine, I'll give it to iskcon. I'm happy to give it to you. That's when I thought, bhaktaye bhakta jana priyaha. If you know someone even in the material world, he can open doors that cannot be opened ordinarily. if you serve a devotee in the spiritual world who is really serious, then the door to the spiritual world is actually open to you. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Now, Prabhu, please, I would love to hear your question.
You spoke about this, right? The purpose of life. What is the purpose of life?
The purpose of life, the scriptures tell us, whether you are reading the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita, is to first of all understand that what you have now is temporary by nature. Therefore, use it well for a higher purpose. The next thing that's very important, the purpose of life, is to understand that you are not just this body. You are this body, but there is a consciousness within the body that pervades it. And that consciousness allows you to be conscious, and for me and you to be interacting even now. When that consciousness leaves the body assumes what is known in the outside world as death. Therefore, the consciousness that pervades the body is spiritual in nature, because it has the capacity to keep matter alive for a certain period of time. So one of the important values and purposes of life is to understand that you are more than just the body. So Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita tells us, it's fine to have what you have, but have an awareness, begin to have a journey where you begin to have an awareness of the fact that there is more to life than just material acquisitions. There is a purpose to life, and that purpose is very often the satisfaction of what we call the consciousness or the soul, depending on how you call it. Then the next logical step that it goes forward is, all souls of everybody are ultimately connected to each other. And just like they're ultimately connected to each other, there is a source. And we call that the super soul, the Paramatma, God, or whatever that you want to call it. Now, a complete realization of the purpose of life comes when you realize that you are innately spiritual in nature, and you develop a relationship with that which has created you. For example, if I were to ask your name, you give me your first name. Very often, traditionally, nowadays we don't do that, but our elders used to say, okay, first name is good, what is your surname? Because they want to know which village you come from. They want to know if I know your family, I know your father. So the surname becomes very important to us because we carry it with dignity. In the same way, Prabhu, if we know who we are as a soul, that realization is still incomplete. But if we know who we are in relation to the super soul, then our name becomes complete. We have a first name and we have a surname. And that is the start of the purpose of life. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very helpful. You spoke about service. You spoke
Service,
about
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And one way to look at is, if so you are here to serve someone, right? You're here to serve as a parent with some kids.
Yes,
As a son, daughter, look after your parents.
yes,
As we professional, we look after businesses and all that.
yes.
Is it the same way of serving these our own kids, making them healthy, happy, the good citizens of the world?
Yes.
Is the same as serving Krishna?
Very good point. The mood is the same. It's a good start. It's a very good start. For example, if you're a father and you have children, very often a father or mother's service to the child is the closest to being unconditional that we can describe in this world. Because all we want is actually our children's happiness. And as our parents grow old, we also serve them because we want their happiness. And we are willing to sacrifice for that happiness. If we can translate that same mood in the spirit of serving the Creator who has given us our parents, given us our children, then that gives us immense peace, satisfaction, and bliss. And it's the same even at work, which is why the Bhagavad Gita is so powerful. Krishna did not tell Arjuna, hey, stop your work now. He was a professional, he was a warrior. His job scope was to fight. Whether he liked it or not, he had to fight. For example, I'm a lawyer by practice, and I have my own practice. Now, most of the time, I am doing litigation and corporate work. So my duty when I get in, because I am advancing my client's interests, is to make sure I do the best service possible. The money is a byproduct, but the service is important. So if I do it as unconditionally as possible, as Arjuna did it, then that service becomes inherently spiritual in nature. So having understanding that the source of the service is coming from Krishna, and understanding that this mood will please Krishna, a devotee can move around in the material world very ordinarily, but the consciousness is extremely spiritual. Two very wonderful questions. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I hope this has been very useful for everyone.
Yes.
Huh? And what about all the youngsters here? You have been very quiet. I'm very impressed. You've not been fidgeting. You're all yogis. That's what you are. Okay? Thank you so much, Sweta Mataji and Prabhu, for having us here. And now we come to the most important part of the program. You are going to light lamps for the Lord. And these lamps will dispel the darkness of ignorance and illuminate your heart with spiritual knowledge. Mataji, have you managed, Prabhu, have you managed to send them?
Yes, I sent it.
Okay, good. So, if you open your phones right now, you will probably see what is known as Damodara Ashtakam. It is the special prayer that we all chant during this month. And it actually is, the Damodara Ashtakam is actually the pastime that we just narrated now. But it's very auspicious to actually chant it. So, Sweta Mataji, you organize. Let's have the ladies and the children come first, right? As you come forward, you can actually light the lamp. And after lighting the lamp, you can offer it. That would be good. Do you have Achaman, Mataji? You have some water, Achaman? Now what will happen is, someone may come forward and they will give you water. Don't drink it. It's meant for purification of your hand. Then you take the diya, the lamp, and then you offer it 3 times to Krishna. And please, your prayer is going to be very important. Whatever that you pray for bhakti. Namam Ishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasat Kundahalam Gokule Brajamanam. If you have your phones, they'll be useful. You get used to it. Yashoda Biyolu Kaladhavamanam Paramrishtamadhyam Tato Dritya Gopya. Yashoda Biyolu Namam Ishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam. Haribo. Help them if they need something. Yashoda Biyolu Kaladhavamanam Paramrishtamadhyam Tato Dritya Gopya. Jai Damodar Ji ki. Rudantam Muhurnetra Yugmam Vijantam Karamboja Yugme Nasatam Kanetam. Haribo. Muhu Swasakampa Trirekha Kakantam Sthita Graivam Dam Karam Bhakti Bhayam. Iti आनन्दकुन्दे स्वघोषं निमाजन् तमख्यापयन्तम् तदीशितानेषु भक्तैर्जितार्थं पुनः प्रेमहतस्तं सतावृत्ति वन्दे जय वृंदावन धाम की परं देवः मोक्षं न मोक्षवदिं न चान्यं मृणेऽहं परिषदपि इदं ते वपूर्णाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्य विरस्तं ते मन्ये इदं ते वपूर्णाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्य विरस्तं ते मन्ये जय बाल गोपाल की इदं ते मुखाम्बोजम् अत्यन्तनीलं वृतं कुन्तले स्निग्धरक्तैश्च गोप्या हरि हरि मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बरतादरं मे मनस्या विरास्तम् अलं लक्षलाभे नमो देवः दामोदर अनन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलाब्धिमात्मन् हरि हरि कृपा दृष्टिवृष्या किदिनं बतामि ग्रहाणेश मामन्यमेधाक्षि दृशया कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमुद्यैव यादं त्वयामोचितौ भक्तिभजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वखं मे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मे स्थिदामोदरे प्रेम भक्ति की नमस्ते स्तुधाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय त्वविश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो नन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् श्रीमती राधा रानी की नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Hari Ram, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. I can't hear you. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Yashoda Damodara, Yashoda Damodara, Yashoda Damodara, Yashoda Damodara, Jaya Yashoda Damodar Ji ki, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shri Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Radha Rani ki, Jaya Vrindavana Dham, Vrindavana Dham, Vrindavana Dham, Jaya Vrindavana Dham, Jaya Vrindavan Dham ki, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan ki, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Mahayajna ki, Jai Shri Yashoda Damodar Ji ki, Jai Shri Shri Kartik Maas ki, Ananta Kodi Vaishnavind ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. Wishing you a very blissful and Krishna conscious Diwali. On the day of Diwali, I pray that you will have the opportunity to remember Krishna in this wonderful pastime. I have these beautiful pictures of Krishna. This is the exact replication of the murti that you have. I'm going to hand it over to Sweta Mataji, and she will give it out. So I won't get into trouble in case I miss someone. That's now between her and you. But my suggestion is to take back these pictures, put them on their altar, and from now right up to 16th of November, which is the end of Kartik Mass, every day, light a ghee lamp like you have beautifully done here and offer it to the Lord. And get all your children and everybody in the house to offer lamps every day in the evening. And when you offer the lamps, remember this pastime. And just by remembering Krishna, you will feel so happy, so peaceful. All difficulties will automatically be handled if we just take up bhakti seriously. So this is my request to all of you. I've also left here for Prabhu and Mataji, I have brought 10 books. And the pastime that I spoke to you about is very, very beautifully explained in these books. Krishna book is such a wonderful book because it's in simple English. Children can read it, adults can read it. It's very engaging. It's in prose. There's no shlokas anywhere. So it reads like a story. Many of us grew up reading Krishna book. And then when our children were born, we read Krishna book to them in the evenings. And they grew up understanding and relishing the pastimes of Krishna. So there are 10 books here. Sweta Mataji, I leave it to you. You give it out to 10 families perhaps who are here. And take back the book, read it, study it. And remember, these things are coming to you not by accident. They're coming by Krishna's arrangement. Please take this up seriously. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Dipanshu Prabhu is here. He will hand out our cards. You will know our programs, details of what we do. If anybody wants a house program anytime in the year, that's what we do, right? We gather together on Saturdays and Sundays. And if you have a time that you want to call family members or anybody in your house, you know the setup here. We don't need to do Damodar. We can do it at any time of the year. We come, we speak about Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam for half an hour. We have 15 minutes of kirtan and 15 minutes of kirtan, and we end it within an hour. You can call whoever you want. It's a very simple, very, very easy program. And you don't have to do anything because we bring everything. And then we pack up and we also leave. That's it, right? So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.